Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Believe in best.
Tonight on Our News, a dozen schools won't be ready for students until next year. The Prime Minister travels from Glasgow to London. Getting to the bottom of a disconnection notice from WSC. The former WSC chairman clears the air, and more than 100,000 more vaccine doses touch down. Welcome to Our News, and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, at least 12 schools will not be ready for students to return to the classroom for face-to-face learning until early next year, according to Education Minister Glenys Hanna-Martin. Jasmine Brown explains.
Unfinished school repairs will keep some government schools from welcoming students back to school campuses at least until next year. Minister of Education and Technical and Vocational Training Glenys Hanna-Martin revealed that fact, addressing the issue of in-class learning at public schools. While no date has been identified for the resumption of face-to-face instruction, Hanna-Martin says her ministry is actively preparing for it, and she hopes to be in a position to announce a date soon.
It is very unfortunate and disappointing that the previous administration did not cause for the annual school repair exercise to be undertaken expeditiously, and there has been egregious neglect.
Among the schools that cannot reopen are Gerald Cash, Yellow Elder, C.W. Sawyer, Ridgeland, Sybil Strawn, Uriah McPhee, and Georgetown primaries, as well as L.W. Young and S.C. McPherson Junior Highs, Ellen Coakley High School, and the Center for the Deaf. The education minister says the state of these schools will ultimately hamper the ministry's efforts to get education back on track. This as she notes thousands of students at all grade levels have dropped out of school in the last 2 years.
Madam Speaker, as the young people say, this is not a game. The stakes are high and our nation has gone off track.
She says while the problem was inherited from the former administration, the government is working to accelerate repairs to minimize further disruption.
We are preparing for the resumption of face-to-face instruction in our public schools, but cannot do so until our health officials say that it is safe to do so and mandate the requisite health protocols to be undertaken to assure a safe environment for all.
Now, while Hanna-Martin says her ministry will do all it can to ensure school repairs happen as soon as possible, she says it's up to the Ministry of Health to determine when school children will return back to the classrooms, and they will await that go-ahead. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine.
Meanwhile, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Pearl McMillan says the Ministry of Health is still not able to recommend in-person learning. Although COVID cases are declining, Dr. Pearl McMillan says they have to assess the situation further.
We review that on a weekly basis in the emergency of the EOC. We anticipate later today doing that kind of review, and we then make recommendations as it relates to whether or not we should go to fully allowing students to be in face-to-face.
Over the past few weeks, case numbers and hospitalizations have drastically decreased. That's encouraging for Dr. McMillan, but she says the Bahamas is not out of the woods just yet. Well, Prime Minister Philip Davis traveled the short distance from Glasgow to London today for several meetings and a visit to government offices. Before he left, he attended key meetings in Scotland this morning. Vonique Toot is live in London tonight with the latest.
Good night, Christina. Following 4 days of back-to-back meetings, Prime Minister Philip Davis touched down here in London this afternoon, where he has another jam-packed schedule.
This report is brought to you by EY, building a better working world.
From one meeting
will also help to structure the first element
to the next.
I've heard so much about our work.
Prime Minister Philip Davis has been busy since arriving in the UK, negotiating critical adaptation and climate mitigation funding for the Bahamas. During a dinner hosted in Glasgow city centre last night for Bahamians living in Scotland, Davis said the Bahamian government's mission is clear.
We reduce to our geographical location the emissions that are put out by the other countries.
Yes.
And time for us to pay for it. That's what I told the world today. We come bad things. I'm tired to talk. Because it ain't our fault.
The Prime Minister arrived here in London today, but the government's technical team remained in Glasgow for 2 weeks of crucial meetings and sessions. Director Rochelle Newbold says an important factor is not to come across as a nation begging for money.
We're not here to beg. We're here to partner with individuals, and we're here to be compensated for things that have been done to us. Those things are rightfully ours. I don't want us to have it be seen as we're a country that's begging. Like I said, we made an agreement. The world made an agreement, and we have kept our end of the bargain, and we expect them to keep theirs.
In a sobering speech yesterday, the Prime Minister told world leaders that support by financing and technology transfer are needed urgently so that the Bahamas can rebuild for resilience. He warned that without change, if we are lucky, Bahamians will become refugees.
My biggest goal at this conference is to make sure that we are put in the best possible position to be on the receiving end of any sort of climate finance that can help us to deal with matters relative to our infrastructural needs, our agricultural needs, our healthcare needs. All of those things need to be able to be tangibly experienced by our people. If they are not, then we've lost this whole effort. Amid
growing fears of hurricanes even more powerful than Hurricane Dorian, rising sea levels, and our islands disappearing beneath the seas, I asked Newbold if she believes enough Bahamians are taking climate change seriously.
One experience and exposure to a hurricane will have people reconsidering their previous position if they were of this is not real as it relates to climate change.
Now, Christina, as you can imagine, after making the long journey here to the UK and going non-stop, the Prime Minister's team says he plans to get some rest this evening before starting fresh tomorrow. Reporting from Oxford Street in London, back to you.
Thanks, Monique, and we really hope that you get some rest also.
Don't count on it.
Well, Public Works Minister Alfred Sayers seeking answers over who authorized the resumption of service disconnections after the corporation released a disconnection advisory last night. Kyle Joaquin has the story.
I was not informed of the notice. I will have to speak with Water and Sewerage and find out why the notice would have been issued without any consultation with me.
The notice was released on WSC's Facebook page Tuesday night and says customers with outstanding accounts and financial agreements are requested to ensure that their accounts and financial agreements are brought up to date as soon as possible to avoid an interruption in service. Disconnections are set to resume on Monday, November 15th. The problem is, who made the decision? A new board hasn't been announced yet, and that decision really lies with Cabinet. Sears now wants answers.
A policy position was taken by the government, and to change that policy position would require a proper review of the customer base to see what their conditions are, and then determine whether the policy should be changed.
And that didn't happen. This latest move by the corporation comes more than a year after a moratorium was placed on water disconnections during the COVID-19 pandemic. In October 2020, then WSC Chairman Adrian Gibson requested that Cabinet allow the corporation to recommence disconnections because it was in dire straits. At that time, Philip Davis in opposition condemned the request. Fast forward a year later, and Sayers now wants to know who at WSC authorized this move without the Davis administration knowing.
During the proceedings in Parliament, someone showed it to me, and that was the first time I knew about it. So I will communicate with Water and Sewerage and find out why the notice was issued.
He didn't say for sure whether this decision would be overruled, but advised that he will take the matter to Cabinet.
I will be advised and consult with Cabinet, and a position will be taken.
Again, Sayers said he will meet with the executive team of the corporation to determine the next step. For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
The Davis administration will be hiring accounting firm Deloitte & Touche to review Bahamas Power and Light, according to Works and Utilities Minister Alfred Sayers.
The government will be engaging Deloitte & Touche
to do a rapid assessment over the next 30 days of the rate reduction bond, the hedge strategy, and the operation of BPL, so that the government can get a very quick study in order to make decisions about the strategy going forward.
Based on the findings, Sears says the Davis administration will determine if a more thorough investigation will be needed. And mostly clear skies this evening. Greg Thompson has the latest from the Weather Center.
Thanks, Christine, and welcome everybody for your first look at weather on this Wednesday evening. Very pleasant conditions outside our studios right now. Temperatures are in the upper 70s. 79 degrees right now outside our studios. Few clouds. We are going to call it mild. Winds are still very light out of the east-northeast at 5 knots, and your feels like temperature very comfortable, 82 degrees. Woke up to some very cool temperatures. Overnight low was 64. Blue skies allowing us lots of sunshine. We warmed up into the 80s. Little disturbance to the west of us, should continue to move towards the west, but expect some very nice conditions tonight. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, 134,000 Pfizer doses arrive in country, plus a former health minister weighs in on new COVID rules. Stay tuned.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
The Ministry of Health is ramping up the vaccine rollout with the goal to get half of the population fully vaccinated by the end of the year. That goal may be within reach as the health minister confirmed 39% of people have been vaccinated so far. Jillian Gray has more.
A plane carrying 134,550 Pfizer vaccines touched down on New Providence Wednesday afternoon, bringing hope in the fight against COVID-19. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Darville promised an acceleration in COVID vaccine distribution in the coming days.
Before the end of the year to get in excess about 45 to 50%. We're going to work hard to achieve that goal.
Darville says he's not certain if a fourth wave is looming, but vaccines are the best bet to combat that. This comes as a new United States policy requiring all visitors entering the country by air to be fully vaccinated comes into effect on Monday.
Every airline is going to have their own procedures. I do recommend that in the first days it might be a little bit bumpy, so get to the airport early just like you would anytime.
All vaccines available in the Bahamas will be accepted under that new policy. The Bahamas has been trending behind its Caribbean neighbors in vaccine uptake, and thus the Ministry of Health has vowed to take the vaccine to the people. Vaccine Committee Logistics Chair Dr. Gina Archer says that push begins this weekend.
We are looking at going to the fish fry on Saturday and Sunday. We'll be out there between the hours of 2 and 8 in the storytelling pavilion. So those of you who are out with your families and whatnot, you can walk up, we'll make the appointment for you. You can get vaccinated then. We're also offering the vaccinations over at Town Center Mall on Saturday as well, and also at the Kendall GL Isaacs Gym on Saturday.
Now, with more vaccines in country, the Health and Wellness Minister says he hopes more people will sign up to take the vaccine. Reporting for our news, I'm Jillian Gray.
And new COVID-19 health rules tabled this week are a step in the right direction, according to former Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands. However, Dr. Sands says there are some peculiarities with the rules. Brittany McDermott has that.
Former Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands heralding the upcoming end to the emergency orders as a move that was long overdue. However, he notes that while most of the new proposed rules are reasonable, some guidelines are not. For instance, Health Minister Dr. Michael Darville said there will be no curfew once the state of emergency ends. Dr. Sands says abandoning some principles prematurely may be a mistake.
It could include curfews, but if you say that we want to not include curfews, then that's a signature plank of your policy. Provided that as you move forward at a week, at 2 weeks, at a month, you're assessing the impact of that decision to determine whether or not it made sense or not.
The bill tabled on Monday also eliminates the need for a re-entry COVID test if a person traveling from the Bahamas returns within 24 hours.
The question is, what ought to be the sweet spot? Is it 24 hours? Is it 28 hours?
The Bahamas was under a state of emergency since March 2020, with the Prime Minister operating as the competent authority. The former Elizabeth MP called for the end of the state of emergency multiple times while in Parliament. Dr. Sands suggests government should also revisit mask requirements moving forward.
As it is now, the language speaks to people wearing a mask outside of their residence. Well, what happens if I'm in the bush? I'm in the bush hunting pigeons. Do I need to wear a mask?
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
When Our News comes back from the break, Adrian Gibson clears the air on an outstanding issue. Plus, the 2021 World Series wraps up. The details when Our News returns.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
This is Our News. Welcome back. Long Island Member of Parliament Adrian Gibson on the defense today against political attacks he claims reached unique levels during the political season. In Parliament, the former Water and Sewage Corporation executive chairman admitted the director of a company awarded WSC contracts was known to him. The admission comes more than 2 months after leaked documents showed hundreds of thousands of dollars in contracts were awarded to a company whose director was Gibson's reported fiancé.
During that cycle, I call it a political count salad, was thrown into the public domain. I believe that spouses, people one might be involved with, significant others, parents and children are off limits completely. And we must be careful not to set dangerous precedents, or to quote Mr. Paul Farquharson, to take politics, Paul Farquharson Jr., to take politics to the water's edge.
The documents, which show that Elite Maintenance Incorporated Limited was awarded 2 contracts from WSC, sparked questions about the bidding process and the role that Gibson's then fiancé played. Gibson says the Free National Movement's public relations team asked him to avoid back and forth ahead of the general election.
During campaigns, the party's PR machinery takes precedence to one's own, and one is guided by the same. Being a party man, I complied.
In other news, the Atlanta Braves celebrate their first title since the 90s. Meanwhile, the latest from our NBA stars. Here's Marcellus Hall.
All right, thanks, Christina. And welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. For the first time since 1999, that's been the last time the Atlanta Braves celebrated a world championship in the World Series. They had a chance to close things out last night against the Houston Astros. Without further ado, let's take you to the highlights. World Series action last night. Atlanta Braves looking to close out the Houston Astros in Houston. Series at 3-2. Houston hoping to force a deciding Game 7, taking out to the 3rd inning as Jorge Soler at the plate for the Braves. He homers deep to left field. Eddie Rosario comes around to score. Ozzie Albies also on base. A 3-run blast puts the Braves up 3-0. To the 5th now with Dansby Swanson at the plate now for the Braves. He goes deep to left field. That scores 2. Braves now up 5-0. Braves not done here as Freddie Freeman now comes up to the plate. He doubles to left field. Jorge Soler, he comes around to score. Braves in full command here. They're up 6-0 and Houston in deep trouble. To the 7th we go. Freddie Freeman at the plate. He drives an insurance run deep into the night. That's to center field. And how about this? The Braves up 7-0. Houston never recovers as coming in to close things out. Will Smith getting the final 3 outs. Braves celebrate the championship. They are your World Series champions for 2021. On to some basketball news now, where a couple of our Bahamian players in action, or at least one of them anyway, Sacramento Kings and Buddy Hield, they took on the Utah Jazz yesterday evening in Utah. Buddy starting out pretty well, had 10 points in the first half, but would struggle a little bit in the second, adding just 9 more on the day. He finishes up with 19 points on the evening. Kings take the loss, 119 to 113. They fall below 500 at 3-4 so far in the season. As we mentioned, Buddy with an interesting night, 19 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists on the evening. Took just 10 shots in the night, made 6 of them. But for whatever reason, they went away from him down the stretch, and Sacramento ends up, like we said, getting the loss there. The Phoenix Suns did play last night, but no DeAndre Ayton as he's out with an injury, with a knee injury. They sat him out last night. No word yet as to when he expected to be back into the lineup. And that's indeed your check on sports for you here on this Hump Day Wednesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you.
Thanks, Marcellus. Still to come, helping the Cancer Society fulfill its mission. Stay with us.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Welcome back to our news. Some thunderstorms may be moving in. Greg is back in the Weather Center with the details.
Thanks again, Christina, and welcome back, everybody, for your second look at weather. Very pleasant conditions around the islands. That high-pressure ridge remains in charge, allowing our clouds to be, well, skies to be cloud-free. So warm temperatures during the day, but once those winds fall off and those skies remain clear, we expect some very low temperatures. Frontal boundary across the south-central United States should get in here by Friday, so we're looking for some showers across the islands by Saturday. The tropics, we are watching an area of disturbed weather in the central Atlantic, but nothing happening with that. Of course, one is still out there in the open Atlantic. Still a tropical storm expected to remain out in the open Atlantic. The remainder of the tropics quiet, and tropical cyclone formation is not expected through the next 5 days. Beaching and boating forecast for all areas tonight through tomorrow. Your winds will fall off light and variable, but become more easterly at 10 to 15 knots tomorrow. Seas 2 to 4 feet over the ocean. Tide will be high at 7:17 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Monday. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe night, everybody. Christina?
Thanks, Greg. A construction company is laying the foundation to support cancer patients as they battle the disease. SMG Construction and Millwork today presented the Cancer Society of the Bahamas with a $5,000 check to assist with the work it does in helping cancer patients and survivors.
You can be reminded of SMG, that we want to join the fight with you, and hopefully that this $5,000 starts something, that other organizations like ours can look amongst themselves and do something, and I know a lot of people are doing it, and join the fight. So thank you for giving us the opportunity, and thank you for all the great work you guys do.
Cancer Society past president Laverne Wildgoose says the donation will help to make the Cancer Center a home for Family Island cancer patients.
We do a lot of awareness, travel to the Family Island to do free pap smear screenings, pap smear, prostate screening, breast exams, free to the Family Islanders. And so funds would help us to continue our programs and to maintain our work here at the Cancer Society.
Thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.